I don't think it's crazy to say that most people find Stellar Blade to be a little over-sexualized. And honestly, that was my reaction when I first saw the game. You look at it and the combat looks great, with all the parries and the sword slashes, then you get hit with that. But I'm here to tell you that Stellar Blade has a lot more to offer, and it all starts with the music. Going into Stellar Blade, I fully expected the soundtrack to match the crazy combat. And look, the game does have the high energy tracks, I'm not saying it doesn't. You hear it in most of the boss fights and it's awesome. But there's another side to the soundtrack that completely caught me off guard. I think that moment clicked for me when I first entered one of these camps. In-game, they act as checkpoints where you can upgrade skills, buy equipment, or fast travel to any other camp you've visited. But these camps are incredibly homey, more so compared to the other game's bonfire equivalent. If this were a FromSoft game, you'd be sitting in the dirt. But in here, you have a fire where food is being made, a vending machine for drinks, and even a chair to rest in, with a bed for sleeping. As a nice attention to detail, they even added a dream catcher right below the bed. But none of this would have been even close to being as nice as it is without the music. Instead of constant high-tempo beats, you get hit with these incredibly sweet melodic vocals, layered over soft pianos and violin. It feels surprisingly warm, and it creates this stark, beautiful contrast with the world around you. As Eve, you explore this shattered fragment of a once great utopia, broken to the point where even picturing what it once was is hard. Everything is in ruins and completely shattered, with the only form of life being grotesque monsters called Nightibas. But the moment you stumble into a safe zone, drop a coin into a vending machine, and sit down, that music makes it feel genuinely cozy. It's a bizarre feeling, but it's also here where you realize the two inspirations the music has. So the soundtrack of Stellar Blade is actually the collaborative effort of Shift Up's sound team and Monica, the studio founded by Keiichi Okabe. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Monica are the ones behind the Nier series soundtracks. These two have worked hard to create a blend of songs that perfectly matches the cyberpunk aesthetics of Ghost in the Shell, one of their main inspirations, while still capturing the signature vocals that Nier has. But what fascinates me the most is just how chaotic this blend becomes, in the best way possible. As you progress through the game, you'll soon realize that the songs aren't just in English or Korean, but are also in French, Latin, and even entirely made up language. The genres of the music shift just as wildly. One minute you're listening to a relaxed jazz-inspired track. The next, a more experimental synth pop. And just moments later, an epic, angelic orchestral arrangement. The soundtrack as a whole perfectly encapsulates the world that it's in, a broken collection of human history. And this emphasis for music isn't just for show. The developers cared so deeply about how music dictated the game's pacing that they were willing to let the soundtrack reshape the actual narrative layout of the game. In the interviews, the composers revealed that the intense boss theme for Democrawler, which is one of the game's best tracks, was originally composed with the intention of it being the final boss theme of the entire game. But as development progressed and the pacing of the story shifted, they realized that they needed the song's emotional impact much earlier in the journey. So they moved the track, prioritizing the emotional impact of that specific gameplay moment over their original plans. I think a part of why I've been so obsessed is because the music is so present in the experience. Now, I get it's like that for most games, but in Stellar Blade's case, there's actually a legitimate reason as to why the music is like this. Since the game's massive success, the game director, Kim Hyung-tae, has gone out to say that he found the story to be rather poor. What that meant for the game design was that it really needed another way to convey its emotional baggage, with the story taking a more backseat. And I think that's exactly why the music has the amount of variety, depth, and importance that it has. To a certain degree, the music is the alternative form of storytelling in the game. Looking at it from this perspective, it makes sense why there's so much variety in the types of music you're constantly hearing. Think about Eve's situation. She's a soldier born in outer space in something called the Mother Sphere, where they probably had Amazon delivery drones or something. But basically, everything she's experiencing on Earth is new to her. Walking through these ruins makes her feel really isolated, triggering a wide range of emotions that even she can't fully explain with words. So what we get isn't the line of dialogue that expresses that confusion, but instead music that steps in to convey and voice those exact unstated emotions for her. Now, am I saying that Eve feels the synthetic pop that we were just hearing earlier? Probably not, but for the most part, some of the songs do convey that emotional baggage that Eve has and that the story needs to move forward. It can also explain why the camps feel so cozy to us, because to Eve, this is a rare moment where she can lower her guard and just rest. At the end of the day, what Stellar Blade did with its sound design wasn't completely revolutionary. It didn't rewrite the rules of music production. It received a nomination for Best Score in Music, but the category was ultimately won by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But I don't think that it has to. There are plenty of other reasons to love this game. The fluid combat, the epic parry windows, and yes, even the enormous assets the game carries. But if you look past the surface, you'll also find an experience that genuinely cares about how it makes you feel. So whether it's Stellar Blade, Gooner Blade, I don't care at this point. Just don't let it stop you from trying it out. Because instead of a game you play with one hand, you might just find a beautiful world that's worth listening to.